The way the technology is heading is to make things much more intuitive, easier to use and easier to understand.
Well, technology these days is just everywhere. It's just like a normal thing because I've never not had it there.
For my generation, technology was quite complicated. You know, to do a website, you'd have to understand how to do code and so on, and you know, you'd get the manuals to everything you bought. Now I think technology is designed that you don't need all that.
I think it's quite difficult to get people thinking about technology because they're focused on the lovely shiny thing in front of them. And so there's an assumption that everybody wants more and more and more of that. But it's sometimes take a step back and think, why do you want to use this? What are you going to do?
There are lots of ways that you can think about bringing together different generations, but we often think the most effective ways are to look at how do people spend their everyday lives and how can you increase those opportunities for connections. What is it that people do in their day-to-day life, older and younger people, and where can you bring them together in a much more natural way?
We just know from practice that people learn better from people like them. And so that's, you know, there's lots of existing learning materials. What we just need is people to come forward.
The reason why we need to engage young and old people together around technology, particularly for those people who are probably over 75, is if you're excluded from technology now, you're excluded from a large part of the world.
Old people and young people should communicate about technology. I think that young people should tell them how it can benefit them, and then the old people can explain if they're worried about younger generations using it too much.
Young people should be encouraged to share their digital skills with older people, but they should know that the way to describe it is got to be in the least patronising way possible. It's a question of using the right language.
There's a big issue with language. So the way that we describe technology for younger people is very different from how older people would do it. Having worked with older people, I've literally seen them thump the table and say, write it in my language.
One of the most exciting things we've seen is the Inclusion Trust, where excluded young people have actually worked with older people in residential homes to create a social networking site to enable people to be included in what's going on in their communities.
There are growing numbers of projects hosted by voluntary sector organisations, bringing together younger people quite often of secondary school age with older people to train them in digital technology, quite often in internet use.
There's a wonderful website called History Pin, and it's a way of placing historic photographs on a Google map, essentially. Now what that does is it enables young people to support older people to think about uploading photographs, to understanding how the internet works and how you can use it. But at the same time, it allows those older people to talk to the young people about the history and how their local area is changing.
One of the challenges of technology is while it keeps changing, we're going to have to keep thinking about how do we use this and what's the best way forward.
If we look at the commonalities between people who use technology and those who don't, it's very often about the context they're in, about the reasons they have for using technology and the support that's available to them. Age is important in that it then helps understand what sort of support is appropriate and what opportunities they have to use technology. But for me, it's secondary to the motivation for people to use technology.
And technology could be actually in many ways a glue to bring people together. And sometimes it's seen as a thing that pulls it apart, but actually if we use it effectively and understand those different needs, not only independence but interdependence, then I think it can be a power for good.